Welcome once again to Cricbuzz In Conversation, and someone I've wanted to talk to for a while because I'm fascinated by the way he plays his cricket. No game of cricket is ever finished till Glenn Maxwell is done with the game. And yet you see Glenn play and you get the feeling cricket's on the edge a little bit. The shots that he plays, the situations he conjures, leave fans on the edge of their seats. Glenn, would that be a fair way of introducing you? That there's a lot of players as accomplished as you who put bumps on the seats because people come to watch them.
Yeah.
You tend to put bumps on the edge.
Yeah, I certainly like to entertain and certainly play an aggressive brand of cricket. And I suppose it's come with being a middle order player for most of my career. And I suppose with the evolution of T20 cricket, I suppose for most of my career that you sort of have to adapt to that sort of aggressive type of style of play, and something I've probably been, I suppose, more around than probably the longer version of the game as well.
It's fascinating to understand the mindset of people like these, like you, because the traditional game is all about safety, protecting your wicket, and suddenly you're coming out here, the perception of risk is different, the 50-50 shot is on. What's in your mind when you're going out to bat in a T20 game? Are you saying, let's see how far the boundary is, if I can hit it into the next quarter? Or are you saying, let me figure out?
No, not. I suppose you've got to try and take out the thoughts of risk out of your mind, and you try and play the shots that are either the best for the fielder, best for the field, or the bowler that you're facing, and you're trying to weigh up the potential risk versus the reward. And for example, if you're facing a right-arm off-spinner as a right-handed batter, the percentages are a lot higher in my favour if I'm hitting with a spin over long on, compared to facing a left-arm off-spinner who's spinning the ball away from the bat. So you're always going through these different percentages in your mind and trying to adapt that to the certain field. And I suppose practicing the way I do and being an aggressive player, you make certain mistakes during the games, but you've just got to try and back yourself more often than not, just to, I suppose, go out there with a positive mindset, because most of the time when you come out to bat in my position in the team, the run rate's going high and you've got to keep up with a high run rate. So, yeah, I suppose for me it's all about adapting and making sure that I'm staying ahead of the game.
There's obviously a lot more to you than someone who just comes and demolishes a cricket ball, but it's the persona, isn't it? That's why I suspect a lot of interviews start the way I have. Does it bug you sometimes that that's all that people want to know about your ability to go and clear the field? I'm sure there's more to your cricket than that.
No, it's fine. I suppose it's something that has been, I suppose, with me for most of my career, and probably had its adverse effects trying to play in the longer format. But in saying that, I've had a pretty good career, so I wouldn't change it for the world. And that's the thing. It makes it watchable. People love coming to watch it, and we only saw, I suppose, the 2014 IPL edition, and when myself and David Miller had a great tournament. Just the joy that it brought to the Kings 11 fans, it was something I'll never ever forget.
What's it about the UAE? I mean, you're a fantastic interviewer in that you wonderfully shifted the conversation to where you wanted to go, but I was going to come there anyway. What's it about the UAE? Your record in the UAE is something else.
Yeah, that was an extraordinary time.
Not just that, I mean, I've looked at the records, even other matches, 12 matches at 500 runs in 12 matches. Incredible things happen to you when you play there. And I'm going to ask you about a last over with 2 to get, but with the bat.
I think just with the UAE, the conditions always just seem to suit. It's the grounds are still quite big. There's lots of open space. There's not a whole lot of bounce. There's not a whole lot of spin either. It's just a nice place to play, and I've always felt really comfortable there. There's something about the ground that really suits my eye, and even facing bowlers out there, I just feel really comfortable. And when you find grounds around like that in the world, you can start to get a run on them, start to get a real feel for them, and it's where I had my debut series for Australia in 2012. And ever since then, I've sort of had a bit of a love affair with the country playing there, and hopefully it can extend to a few other countries as well. But I've certainly loved my time playing there. there's some extraordinary memories that I've got playing my cricket there.
You in the IPL 2014 Kings 11 UAE, you were scoring runs for fun. They wanted to push the boundaries back from Dubai to Sharjah at one point, I think, when you were playing. But your IPL story started a year earlier, when you came in as this, dare I say, the $1 million baby at Mumbai Indians. And how was the feeling? Here I am getting $1 million. The world's looking at me, but I'm only playing 3 games. Did you get the feeling, hang on, I'm not delivering my worth? Or you saying, no, thank you, I'll take the check?
Well, it actually started the year before that. I was at Delhi Daredevils as a replacement player for basically a bag of chips and a can of Coke. And it was an amazing experience to, I suppose, be a part of an IPL. And I suppose after the first 2 games, all the big players, all the big overseas players arrived, and from going from one of the 4 players being picked, one of the 4 overseas players being picked, I was suddenly about 8th or 9th or 10th overseas player on the roster, and watching Delhi go about their business. But it was an amazing experience. And then the following year, to have the massive contract with Mumbai Indians, it was really exciting. But there was a lot of added attention that I probably wasn't used to, and certainly changed the way I was probably perceived in India. And not being able to really show my worth throughout that tournament was probably a little bit frustrating at the time. But we won the tournament, we played so well, and it probably wasn't until later on in the year when we played the Champions League that I was actually able to show a bit of my worth. I played really well in 1 or 2 of the games, and felt like I sort of belonged at that level. So it obviously came the following year that I sort of had my breakout year, but I owe a lot to those first couple of years where it was sort of warmed me into the IPL and gave me an idea of what to expect.
Was it a bit of a tall poppy syndrome in Australia, saying, who's this fella who's earning $1 million? I mean, an Aussie earning $1 million for 6 weeks. Was it a bit of the tall poppy syndrome in Australia thereafter?
Oh yeah, it was certainly met with a bit of a resentment, I suppose, from the public, and people probably treated me a little bit differently in public as well. I certainly caught my fair share of abuse of being overpaid and underperforming, and when I wasn't even playing, it wasn't really anything I could do about it. So it certainly had a bit of that effect. And Australians don't mind trying to bring down someone who is earning a bit more than they are. So there was certainly a bit of that.
What changed at the Kings 11 the following year? Was it just that you were in great form? Was it that George Bailey gave everyone a free hand to go and play? Was it the tracks in the UAE? What happened? I mean, you were scoring 90s of 40, 45 balls.
Well, I think once you start a tournament well, and I was comfortable, I'd prepared really well for that tournament. The conditions really suited me, and I think the attack that Chennai had that year, there was a lot of familiarity about it. I'd faced a lot of the players before, and I just felt really comfortable out there in the middle. There wasn't sort of too many unknowns for me. So a couple of guys that I'd played against before, they'd played for India, and I'd played internationals against. I think it was Ashwin Mohit Sharma that I'd faced a fair bit. Pawan Negi was with Mumbai the year before, so I'd trained with him a lot. So there was so much familiarity in that attack that I just felt really comfortable while I was out there, and there wasn't really a whole lot that I was sort of surprised by.
Is there a sense of deja vu coming up in your mind? Kings 11 again, IPL again. There's a decent price tag again. Anil Kumble said after the auction, he said, "No, for me, Glenn Maxwell's a match winner." So there you are. It's all coming back, isn't it? Big price tag, UAE. It's all coming back.
It's I think it's good timing. UAE. Kings back in Kings 11 colours, a chance for us to get our first title. I think it's really exciting, and I'm certainly looking forward to linking up with the guys in UAE and hitting the ground running.
There's some very interesting names in that Kings 11 side.
Yeah, we've got an exciting list. I'm certainly looking forward to playing with KL Rahul. He's one guy that I am looking forward to being on his team, and instead of playing against him all the time, and I just think he's an absolute class act, and love watching him play. And I'm really looking forward to hopefully batting with him a couple of times and trying to entertain.
And you know Anil Kumble well because he can be a taskmaster.
Jumbo, yeah, looking forward to catching up with him again. He was obviously at Mumbai the year I was there in 2013, and certainly looking forward to working with him again.
It's an opportunity to correct a little blip, isn't it? Your record as a T20 in T20 internationals is ridiculous, and yet in the IPL, while the strike rate's around there, the average isn't quite Maxwell. So you see the opportunity to correct a few things.
Being a middle order player, I've never really worried about my average too much. It's probably more about contributing to wins, and sometimes that's at the detriment of my own record, and it's something that's not really going to faze me too much. I've got to make sure I'm going out there scoring quickly, and it's not always going to work, but depending on the role that Kings 11 want me to play this year, I'm sure it's going to be probably around that 4 mark again, and hopefully I can go out and have similar success to what I had in 2014.
Yeah, the Kings are one franchise that have never really. I mean, they've made a semi-final. You made the final in 2014, but Kings haven't really gone out and done something in the IPL yet, isn't it? Do you see it as an opportunity this year to contribute to that?
I certainly think. I just think the whole competition sort of probably feels that it's Kings 11's time, and there's just that feeling about it. I think that it's getting closer and closer for us, and we've worked hard, I suppose, to get a list over the last 6 years, and I'm hoping that my addition and hopefully a few other additions this year that we can go all the way this year.
I mean, it's in the UAE, not in Punjab, but last time you were in the Punjab, they called you what? What did they call you? Glendeep Singh Maxwell.
Oh, all sorts of things. Probably part of the reason they wanted to give me citizenship of Punjab, and it was a great time, and especially returning to India after that initial UAE start. It was an amazing way that we got received around the country. As I said, we had myself and David Miller having 2 really good tournaments together, and George Bailey was on fire as captain. Mitch Johnson was bowling absolute rockets. Sehwag was in our side. We were just on fire, and it just felt like we could do no wrong.
See what the IPL does. You counted a South African among your friends. You wouldn't have imagined that before, an Aussie and a South African.
No, not at all. But yeah, we became really close after that, and it was a great time.
It's a different kind of pressure, isn't it? I've spent a few years telling people that T20 cricket is not an inferior skill to Test cricket, but a different skill to Test cricket. You're going out to bat, and your team needs what? Okay, let's take an actual game. 20 for 2 chasing 190 in that game in India where you got a century in a handful of balls. Are you thinking, no, 20 for 2, we can't be 20 for 3? Or saying, no, I've got to get to 190, I've got to go straight away?
Oh, no, so I was lucky to have Darcy Shaw at the other end, and he started off really well during that partnership. He was hitting the ball really cleanly. I knew we had certain matchups during the innings that I could take down, and you knew the way that they set up their bowlers. They knew Bumrah was going to come back at the end. I think Siddharth Kaur was going to bowl 2 at the end as well. So you knew that there was 4 overs of good quality death bowling to finish off. You knew that they were going to attack you with spin throughout. So I knew that if we targeted those overs of spin and were able to get, 12, 13 and over off them, we might be able to take a little bit of pressure off at the back end. But as it turned out, I think we only went at 10s against the spinners and still left ourselves about 40 off the last 4 overs. But luckily enough, just they missed a couple of times, which we weren't sort of predicting on, but we were able to sort of cash in on that. But the whole time I was just thinking about the run rate required and trying to keep up with that as well as we could, and trying to go back in the numbers back sort of in a backwards way where you know what you need off the last 4 and try and work it back from there.
You know, is there a pressure? Say Steve Smith's going out to bat number 3, number 4 in a test match, and people are saying, okay, Steve Smith, he's going to be batting for 4 hours, 5 hours. Is there a pressure on you saying, Glenn Maxwell's coming out to bat in this game, right? Let's fasten our seatbelt. Something's going to happen here.
I'm sure there probably has been at certain times, but I sort of don't take that on board anymore. It's I think it's probably the maturing of me over the last few years has been a change of perception and probably a change in consistency, I suppose, in the international T20 circuit as well. I've played a pretty consistent role for Australia over the last few years and been able to play some pretty good match-winning innings and on a consistent basis, which you don't really associate that with middle order players in T20 internationals, especially we don't play that many throughout the year, and to be able to have that little bit of consistency in a format and I suppose consistency of role as well has been nice. But I know there has been a certain excitement and unsurety, I suppose, of fans and commentators when I've come out to bat, but I can tell you that it doesn't feel like that, I suppose, in the more recent times, where it feels like there's a little bit more calmness and consistency about what I'm going to produce.
I mean, there's players like Virat Kohli, for example. You see Kohli bat, you think every fielder's got a GPS, and Virat Kohli's a server. He just knows where everybody is. He knows where the gaps are. You talk to Andre Russell, he says, I don't even care where the fielders are because I'm just going to hit over them. What's your mindset when you're going into bat? Are you worried about where the field is, who's bowling, where can I knock a tee, where can I hit over? Or are you just not worried about the field?
No, I'm 100% aware of the field. I know what they're trying to do. I sort of try and gather as much information as I can before the ball's bowled, and then try and make the best judgment. Try and work out what the bowler's trying to do to me, how he's trying to get me out, or if he's trying to get me off strike. And trying to think ahead of the game, I suppose, is my main way to try and score runs. And one of my biggest advantages on the field is trying to read the game and read the opposition about what they're trying to do. And I suppose in past, it's been a lot of leg spin, there's been a lot of short balls, so you actually get a bit of a read on the opposition, what they're trying to do to you. And if you can negate the first plan A or plan B, you can find that you can score really quickly and heavily against some teams.
You're a big one for analytics, you're a big one for figuring out what the analyst is saying, because there's some players to whom the analyst is a friend, there's some to whom the analyst is just a pain. He's filling your mind with stuff you don't want to know. Which side of that are you on?
Well, I watch a lot of cricket anyway, so I generally have a good idea of what teams do and their setups anyway. So I probably do my own analysis sort of stuff. I have a look at my own footage and I try and work out what my best matchups are going to be. And I suppose we're pretty lucky with how much cricket's sort of shown around the world. Guys are playing in multiple tournaments, and you get a pretty good idea of, I suppose, what a lot of players are doing around the different circuits in the world. So I've got a pretty good idea of my plan of attack, I suppose, before I go out to bat. It's obviously a bit unknown when you're batting in the middle order. You don't know what position you're going to come into the game or what the match situation is going to be, but I've generally got a pretty good idea of what the opposition is going to throw at me.
Is every ball, and we're talking T20, I know you've got a Test 100 as well, you've had a fantastic 50 over World Cup, but we'll get to there. When you're going out to bat in T20, is every ball a ball to be defended only if it can't be hit? Is the first thing, can I hit the ball? Only if I can't hit the ball, let's see what to do with it?
I think every ball you've got to have the intent to try and hit a boundary. So you've always got your boundary option. So for me, my first option, depending on the field, is to try and hit a boundary. So if I get a loose half volley, it's still got to be hit to the boundary, or one of my pads, I've still got to be able to place it past the 45 fieldsman or the fine leg fieldsman. So every ball you've got to still think of it as a boundary option, and then if it's not quite there, then you just rein it back 3, 2, 1, etc. You do that for most of the balls that you face, and then only once it becomes you need to go or you need multiple boundaries in an over, do you start to premeditate and start to try and I suppose push the button and try and go a bit harder and score multiple boundaries during the over. But yeah, at the start of my innings, I'm still looking to try and hit a boundary off every ball. It's just about adjusting if it's not quite there, and then either getting yourself up the other end or but yeah, you can't miss out on those boundary balls, even if it's your first ball.
I mean, Glenn, we watch the game from 100 meters away. Sometimes we watch it from many thousand kilometers away, and you get the feeling with you that there's more than one shot that is available to you when the ball is being bowled. How true is that? Because that's the impression we get. I don't know if it's the fast hands. I don't know if it's just the bubbly nature of your batting, but is there always more than one shot, or are you predetermined? If it's there, it's going there. If it's there, it's going there.
Yeah, I've generally got a couple shots for each ball, and depending on how I feel against different bowlers, it might be done in a different way. So sometimes I might think about cutting off the stumps. Other days it'll be a reverse sweep. It's just one of those things. How I'm feeling in practice the day before, or if it's feeling confident, the angle of the bowler, whatever it is, the conditions. You've got to weigh all that up when you're making your shot selections, and that's one thing that sort of developed, I suppose, over my career, and being a brash early 20s when I came onto the scene. I was trying to play every shot in the space of a 30-ball innings, compared to, I suppose, probably more recently, where it's been a bit more measured and well thought out. And I suppose that's the evolution. I suppose as any player, you learn from mistakes. You have setbacks, and then you try and force your way back into a team, and you've just got to do that by learning from your mistakes and trying to get better.
Some days you give yourself so much room you can't reach the ball.
I've had past issues with that, but starting to get there with I suppose that consistency and the knowledge of my own game.
Who've been influencers? Because you've pretty much charted your own path in limited overs cricket. I mean, little before you, there was David Warner, who just came out of the blue and said, guys, this is how T20 cricket is played. And then there was you. So have there been sort of role models? Have there been someone you've gone to saying, should I play like this? Should I play like that? Because there's always the urge to play 3 formats, isn't there? So have there been people who've said, don't do this, don't do this, people you go to?
Oh, there's certainly a lot of people that have an opinion about my game. But I suppose role models...
I'm more interested in the people you have an opinion about it. People will always have an opinion on players.
I suppose guys that I used to watch, guys like Adam Gilchrist, Mike Hussey, these guys that sort of changed the way the game was played at different times. Gilchrist came in and teed off from the start and revolutionised the way opening the batting, I suppose, was in one-day cricket. And Mike Hussey, with his role in the middle overs, had his little reverse sweeps, was busy between wickets. Wasn't the biggest guy, but was able to still find the boundary and still clear the ropes at different times. I loved his energy at the crease, and was someone who I thought I'd love to be able to, I suppose, play that role for Australia, and was lucky enough in my debut series to play with him, which was pretty cool. And still think about getting the opportunity to bat with him a couple of times was awesome.
Some people might say you're as removed from Mike Hussey in the way you play your cricket as possible.
It was obviously technically excellent, I suppose, and I probably haven't been blessed with his as natural technique, but I think I've been able to try and get runs in my own special way, which is using my hand speed and using my hand-eye coordination.
It was a good phase for you, though, because then came the 2015 World Cup. You made 300 runs, averaged 64 at a strike rate that shouldn't have been allowed in 50-over cricket. One of the best phases of your life?
Yeah, I was absolutely flying, and for those 12 months, I was in really good form, and I felt like I couldn't do much wrong. And even before the tournament started, I came in on the back of a warm-up 120, I think, against India, where I didn't miss the middle of the bat for 60 balls or however long I was out there. And I just knew when I came into that tournament that it was just right time. I was at the peak of my powers, and just didn't feel, and I had the complete backing of the rest of the team as well. Like, everyone was in great nick. There was no one sort of fighting form or anything. It was just everyone was absolutely flying. So it felt like every game I was just adding the icing on the cake. It wasn't like I had to wait for a collapse for things to happen. It was the time of the match. All right, Maxie, you're in next. Off you go and have some fun. And I certainly felt like I had a lot of fun that tournament.
You've been around the IPL now, what, 9 years now almost. We're going to get you to pick your best IPL, your favorite IPL side. And like all IPL sides, just 4 overseas players, with the condition you must pick yourself, because we do this with a lot of very accomplished players. And the first thing they do is say, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not going to pick myself. No, you are. So pick yourself, 3 other overseas players, and create an IPL 11 for us.
Okay. Currently playing?
Whatever your choice.
Current IPL. Yeah.
Whatever choice.
I'm going to go opener. Well, David Warner is going to be number 1. He's What's he broken all the records for Sunrisers and been the leading run scorer a couple of times. Just for team balance, Virat's going to open the batting. Same thing, absolute superstar. Number 3, AB de Villiers. So he's my second overseas player. Number 4, Suresh Raina. Number 5, I'm going to squeeze myself in there. That means there's my 3 overseas players. Geez, we're going to be all... what are we up to? 6. Number 6. Jesus, I'm going to have to leave out one of... this is difficult. 6. We're going to go...
Russell.
No, Russell might have to bat. Actually, no, yeah, we will go Dre Russ. Dre Russ at 6. Dhoni 7. 8.
You got 4 India bowlers now. It's not that easy.
4 Indian bowlers. So 8 is Harbhajan. 9, I'm going to go Mohit Sharma.
Okay.
I played with him and he was unbelievable. His death bowling was brilliant. And 10, quick. What should I go? Another spinner. We've got quicks.
I'll prompt you into Bhuvi if you want. He's had a couple of great seasons.
Bhuvi's been brilliant. Yeah, you know what? I'll go Bhuvi. Bhuvi's been a star.
And Bumrah.
Bumrah at 11. Yep.
You're the second spinner in that side, so we can actually test your spin bowling out. There's Raina who can bowl too anyway.
That's a good point.
And
if we need Davey can bowl some leggies.
Yeah, the only one you don't have is a lefty maybe, but that's okay. You can't have it all. There's a lot more to Glenn Maxwell than what you see on a cricket ground, beyond those dramatic last over finishes, beyond all those sixes. We're going to explore that other side with Glenn, who's been very, very candid about it in Cricbuzz In Conversation.